was going to say, our first meeting of June, we've already had one meeting, and are we going to have a second one, Jim? So we're going to have 3 council meetings. So what's that going to cost me paying you guys? A lot, huh? All right, well, welcome, everybody. We'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. We're honored to have Pastor Griepentrog from the On-Site International Prayer Mission here with us this evening. You've been here before. We thank you very much for being here. So if you will all rise and join me, please.
Lord God, we love you, and Lord, tonight I worship you in this place. I give you thanks for the ability for us to continue to pray here on site in this city and in many places throughout the city, including city council meetings. Thank you for this ability. Lord, tonight may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing to you. And Lord, if any of them are not in that place yet, will you help us bring them there so that they are pleasing to you? Father, send your Holy Spirit tonight to give all here who are making decisions your wisdom. Lord, also shape the decisions and the discussions that will take place here and long after this time as well. Lord, we pray your best for the city of Westfield, all who live here, all who travel here and through here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you. President Tate, it's all yours.
Thank you. At this time, would the clerk please note the presence of a quorum?
Mr. Ake,
Here.
Mr. Lehman,
Here.
Mr. Horkay,
Here.
Mr. Hoover,
Here.
Mr. Edwards, Mrs. Spoljaric. Here. Dr. Keene.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. There are no changes to the agenda, so we'll proceed. The next item up for business is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of the June 4th council meeting.
Okay, I have a motion to approve minutes as stated by Steve Hoover. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Cindy Spoljaric. Are there any additions or corrections or discussion? Hearing none, by voice vote, signify by saying aye if you approve the minutes as stated.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Thank you. Moving on to claims. I'd entertain a motion to approve claims as stated.
Move to approve claims.
Thank you. I have a motion by Dr. Mark Keene. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Bob Horkay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'd signify by saying aye to approve claims as stated. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Claims are approved, 6-0. All right, there are no miscellaneous business or special presentations tonight. So with that, we'll move into old business tonight. The first item up for consideration is ordinance 17-52, the Davis Planned Unit Development. This is up for adoption consideration tonight. Ms. Howard, thank you.
Mr. Ake, may I make a comment before we begin?
Sure.
Thank you. Pardon me just a minute, Pam. You know why, and this is in reference really to our entire agenda, which, as you see, is mostly about rezones, PUDs. There's a growing trend, and we get into I know many of these can be controversial. We can debate all kinds of issues with the comprehensive plan and setbacks and prices, density, and these are all great issues that go before the Plan Commission and our City Council. But I just have to add that I'm seeing more and more comments being made online primarily that people are accusing Plan Commission members, accusing council members of inappropriate behavior. I see comments about taking money under the table, meeting in back rooms, and it greatly troubles me to see the citizens of Westfield engage in that kind of behavior on their keyboards. It really troubles me because from several aspects. One, I don't know, if people are watching too much of network news and see how radical politics is getting today. I hear things and I see things, and you know, we elected officials, by definition, have got to have a tough skin. And I think for the most part, we all do. Especially these elected officials. I mean, when we take this job, we know we're going to get thrown things at us, and that's part of the job. But especially when it comes to people of the Plan Commission, I got to tell you, it really makes my job difficult when those kind of accusations are made. I know all of these people and most all of our Plan Commissioners very well. And I will tell you that they're not doing this for the money, especially the Plan Commission members. And sometimes it's just not fun. But I can tell you that every one of these people here and on the Plan Commission are doing it because they believe what is best for the city of Westfield. And I would like nothing better than to be able to say to future residents, future business people wanting to locate here that, you know, our city, we just don't go to those low levels. And I would just ask for, going forth, regardless of what development we're looking at, that we can keep a higher and a very great example of what public and regulatory interaction could be. So, Mr. Ake, thank you for allowing me to make those comments.
All right, thank you for your comments, Mayor. I appreciate those. I'm sure others do as well. All right, so we have Ms. Pam Howard.
Yes.
This is Pam Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Again, Pam Howard with the Economic and Community Development Department. Before you this evening for your consideration, I have a proposed planned unit development district to be known as the Davis PUD. This 80-acre site is located on the west side of Ditch Road between 156th and 161st Streets. The plan proposes a maximum of 125 single-family residential lots in 5 development areas. Since its introduction, several changes have been made to the proposed ordinance, including redesigning the site, which resulted in a reduction in the number of lots, and incorporating additional architectural and landscaping standards as outlined in my department report. This item received a public hearing at the January 16 Plan Commission meeting and comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the May 7th Plan Commission meeting. As of Friday, the proposed voluntary commitments have been updated to include all verbal commitments stated at the recommendation meeting. I do have the petitioner and his representative here. They do not plan to present, but are available for questions, as am I if you have any of staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Howard. Appreciate those comments. At this time, I'd ask if any council members have any questions for the petitioner or staff. Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 17-52, the Davis Plan Unit Development District.
Okay. I have a motion before us. Is there a second?
Yes.
I have a second from Mr. Horkey. This time, is there any discussion?
I'll make a comment, please.
All right, you can have the floor, Cindy.
Thank you. I want to applaud Mr.
attempts to appease the community with their concerns on this project. It's been tough. I do like some of the standards in here, very.
Thank you.
I do appreciate these attempts. At this time, I still have very large concerns about buffer yards being in private lots, those private lots being able to have fences. That in a reforestation area does not make sense to me. There's a few other details that are also concerning to me. Unfortunately, I cannot vote for this today because of that. Thank you.
There have been some consideration given to the APC meeting, and I'd like to ask Steve Hoover, who worked on this and the commitments, and just to have a few comments about the process and at APC and the motion that was put forward and voted on by APC.
Well, first, just to comment on Cindy's comment about the fence in the reforestation area, that is not allowed in the most recent, either it's in the PUD or the commitments, I think it's in the PUD, that there's no fence allowed in the 45-foot reforestation area. There's also no structures whatsoever allowed in that area. Those were changes since the APC meeting. So those were some of the big changes. The APC meeting, we had a proposal before us. There were some concerns about that proposal based on last-minute emails from neighbors and residents out there. We tried at the APC meeting to address many of those through questions to Mr. Estridge. And basically, it ended up that I made the motion to send a positive recommendation with all of the commitments that had been made through that discussion be part of what moves forward to the council. To my knowledge, every single one of those things, and some things I didn't even plan to be included when I made the motion, but staff went through the minutes of the meeting, which were professionally transcribed, and took basically every single comment that was made in there about a commitment to this project, and that now resides either in the PUD or in the written commitments. It's as simple as that. There is everything that the Plan Commission voted on is in there, plus some additional improvements.
And thank you, Steve. We have a motion before us. Are there any other counselors?
I do have a comment. I think the council and the city has worked very hard on transparency. And I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding that when things are voted upon and then changed, that it sends a perception that deals are being cut behind closed doors, or backroom deals are being cut. And I'm just going to suggest that at some point in time, somebody needs to sit down and let's try to figure out a way that the final document that's seen by the APC is a document that comes to us. And I don't know if that means there have to be more changes during, back and forth in the APC or what. I know in this particular case, the changes that were made from APC have been real improvements. These are good things that have happened since the APC meeting. But the perception sometimes is not good, and we don't want the perception that we're doing things behind people's backs. I want to be as transparent as possible. I think we all want to be as transparent as possible, and I think we need to take a look at what kind of procedure or process might we have in the future that could minimize the amount that's done after the APC has met and approved. So that's just simple comment. I want us to be as transparent as possible with all of our processes.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, if I might, I have a couple. I really support what Dr. Keene said. I think that the process needs a little massaging, so we can work on that. You know, it's been interesting. Months ago, as we started on this process, particularly at the APC public hearing, I listened intently and not only that, watched and understood that the APC made their decision based on some verbal testimony. Again, going back to what Dr. Keene said, that probably isn't the best process, but that's what happened. And in the overall scheme of this, that meant a lot to me. So what has been committed to writing and put in as commitments is a big factor in my estimation. If you don't mind, whoever, Matt, if you could you bring up the commitment document, please? I've seen, and maybe everybody is up to speed, but this document is,
What, is there a certain portion of it?
no, all of
Okay,
it.
all right, okay.
I just want it shown. There are pages, there are 7, some of which are just signature pages, but there are 4 pages that are nearly word for word of what was committed verbally. So that has become part of this process, part of the whole commitment of the ordinance. So, you know, you're welcome to scroll down that, but I encourage people, it's on our website. You can read every word of it. I do have a question on section 1. In section 1, I believe under area 6, it says tree size at installation. So I do have a question for somebody, the developer, anybody that's willing to weigh in. It says the developer will make a good faith effort to find and install whips at a minimum of 10 feet tall. If it's not too late, I think it's only reasonable that you simply take out the words make a good faith effort and just put the developer will. It's just a comment
Can I reply to that, Chuck?
when I'm done.
Okay.
So, you know, you go back and forth, and I just think it's just part of something we can do. But I want to go on. Also, I have a question too about when you go to within the ordinance itself. There's a clause in here about the size of square footage of the homes. So I have a question about, it says under section 6, subtitle 1, it says up to 11 lots within the area A may contain one-story dwellings with a total minimum living area of 1,800 square feet. But within the context of this, I don't see where there's a limitation on the total number of ranches that could be built. And I want to clarify that. I just simply, just part of the process, and I want to clarify that. And, you know, if this is a last-minute deal or a last-minute whatever, I don't care. It's just something that's, I looked at, and I want to know. So those are my 2 little comments now, and anybody can answer, and I'm done.
Thank you, Chuck. Chair will recognize Steve Hoover.
Well, I can address the 10-foot whips. The developer was asked to provide 10-foot whips. When they came to APC, they had 5-foot in the PUD. One of the Plan Commission members asked about that, and they were told that the developer could not find 10-foot whips anyplace where they had looked. And they basically made the commitment that if somebody can find those trees when they're ready to plant, whether that's the Plan Commission member, a neighbor, whoever it is, that they would be willing to provide those. The reason they couldn't commit to doing it is they don't believe that they are available, that you cannot buy a 10-foot whip. So if somebody can find them, they'll plant them.
Terrific. Thank you for that explanation.
I don't know about the ranch homes. I've asked the petitioner maybe to address that.
Thank you. Would petitioner care to address the question raised by Mr. Hoover? Would the petitioner care to address the question raised by, Chuck Lehman regarding the 18-foot minimum square footage and number of ranches, more specifically?
My name is Paul Estridge. The reason for the limit of the number of ranches was not for the style of ranch, but for the square footage. So it wasn't the style of home that we were limiting, but rather homes that could be of that square footage. We weren't asked to limit the number of ranches, but rather homes of that size. And that's what we did.
And so do you have a number?
Well, the number that's in the commitment, which I believe is 11.
Okay.
Now, the reason you would have that limit is because in the character exhibits, the houses that you will be proposing to build there is a model that does not achieve the 2,000 square feet, so you want the opportunity to do those homes, and that you've limited it only to area A and the number of 11, or?
Right, so when we give these minimums of square footage, we didn't want people to conclude that all the homes would be of that minimum size. So therefore, we put a limit on how many of those at the minimum square footage there would be in that section. And those are most likely to be ranches.
Mr. Lehman?
Yes, thank you for that clarification. So I just want to be clear that in Area A, it appears that there are about 40, give or take, homes there.
Okay,
So I'm just wanting to be clear.
42, yeah.
42? Thank you. So that by this ordinance, all of those could be ranches. Is that correct?
Yes, we didn't speak to limiting the style of the homes to ranches, but rather the square footage. And so, yes, to answer your question.
All right, just wanted to know, is there, just for the sake of variety, is there a chance that there would be variety there rather than just?
I would say there'd be no chance that they would all be ranches.
Okay,
Virtually zero.
okay, so there would be variety.
There would be tremendous variety. Diversity has been the guiding theme to the entire development all along. Diversity of style of architecture, diversity of home styles, 2 stories, 1 stories, and so forth. This was a square footage minimum guided issue.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We have a motion before us. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lehman?
Yes.
Mr. Forte?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Mrs. Bilgeric?
No.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-1. The next item under old business is ordinance 18-20, Oak Ridge Point, PUD, District Amendment 2. Mrs. Howard.
Thank you. Again, Pam Howard with the Economic and Community Development Department. Did you want me to hold off for a minute?
Yes, let's clear the room, and then those that want to leave can.
Oak Ridge, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Before you this evening, for your consideration, I have an amendment to the Oak Ridge Point Planned Unit Development District to accommodate an inline tenant building. This 2.2-acre site is located on the south side of State Road 32, just west of Oak Ridge Road, and is zoned the Oak Ridge Point PUD, which was adopted in 2008 and restated in 2011. The proposed amendment adjusts some of the architectural and landscaping requirements for the site. Since the introduction, some changes have been made, including removing the request for a second right-in, right-out curb cut on State Road 32, and also enhancing the mechanical screening for the building. This item did receive a public hearing at the May 21st meeting and comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the June 4th Plan Commission meeting. I do have Jesse Pullman with On Point Land Matters here. He does not plan to present, but is available for questions, as am I if you have any of staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for the petitioner?
I have one very small question.
Ms. Boljard?
This exempts itself from the enclosed bicycle parking requirement, but there still will be a bicycle requirement, right? Bicycle parking requirement.
Correct. I believe they're still proposing bicycle parking, a bicycle rack, but just not an enclosed structure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I would just comment that at Plan Commission, at the public hearing, that there were several comments about architecture and hiding utilities. And we asked the petitioner to go back and come up with a better plan. And they came back with, I think, what most of us felt was an outstanding architectural changes. Gave us kind of a guideline for maybe doing something to our ordinances to prevent meter boxes and types things showing on backs of buildings, which has been kind of an ongoing problem to some degree. They did an outstanding job, and I just want to thank them for, and also some parapet changes, some other architectural changes. So I think everyone was very happy with those, and we'll thank the developer for working on those for us.
Thank you for those comments. Any others? This time I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 18-20.
All right, I have a motion by Dr. Markeen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Lehman. Any further discussion among council members? Hearing none, this is up for adoption consideration. Will you call the roll, please? Thank you.
Mr. A,
Yes.
Mr. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Forte,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Mrs. Boljard,
Yes.
Dr. King.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion carried 6-0. Moving into new business now, we have ordinance 17-51, Aurora North Point PUD amendment. This is a council introduction tonight and will require no further action. Mr. Todd, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council, good evening. For the record, Kevin Todd with the Economic and Community Development Department. The item before you this evening for introduction is an amendment to the Aurora Plan Unit Development. The proposal would formally rename the district to the North Point PUD District. It also adds over 100 acres to the project, approximately 30 of which are located here at the south east corner of State Road 38 and Grassy Branch Road. And that property would then be added to Commerce Park Area 3 of the PUD. The remaining 70-plus acres are located in the southern portion of the property and would be added to Commerce Park Area 3 and would also modify this area here, which is currently a couple of the other Commerce Park areas would all then become Commerce Park Area 3. I'm sorry, Area 2. Thank you. And finally, the proposal seeks to modify standards applicable to the business park area located along US 31. So they're consistent with modifications that were made last October to the Bastion property at the south end of the district. This item is scheduled for public hearing on July the 2nd, and will return to you at a later date for adoption consideration. The petitioner is here this evening and would like to make a brief presentation, so Mr. Russell Brown, representing the petitioner, is available for comment. Following his remarks, I'm available for questions you have of staff. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. President, members of the council, for the record, Russell Brown, an attorney with the law firm of Clark Quinn Moses Scott and Grond, 320 North Meridian Street, Suite 1100 in Indianapolis. Kevin actually talked about most of the things I plan to talk about, so my presentation will be even briefer. With me tonight, Chris White and Chris Wilkes, who are a part of the development team for this project. This is called an amendment on your agenda. It is styled as a replacement ordinance, however, at the request and working with staff and staff and your council. So it does look like a brand new ordinance. It's 60 pages, but there is also a red line version that we've provided to staff that shows those modifications which are being requested. Kevin did cover the four kind of major areas of those requests, adding the additional acreage. I'll talk just briefly about that. One of the reasons for that is it does a couple of things. It adds some visibility to this project. It adds visibility along State Road 38. It adds visibility along the southern border as well, which is important as the East Street extension is still pending and still is in the future, not the distant future, but the near-term future. So you have the opportunity to maybe have a development commence at some of those locations while that East Street is still pending. We do add some development standards specifically to the property to the east of Grassy Branch, because previously there was no development east of Grassy Branch in the Aurora PUD. So we add some setbacks, add State Road 38 to some of the primary facade requirements, which did not exist for the Commerce Park area because there was none that bordered State Road 38. We do, as Kevin mentioned, do propose to make conforming changes to the business park area that this council previously approved for the Bastion project. And then proposed, one other small change would be proposed to utilize, in some instances, ponds as buffering in lieu of where it meets certain thresholds, which was not previously included in the ordinance. So those are the four kind of general areas. Staff and members of the administration and members of this council have been very generous and patient with us as we've gone through this process. As you'll notice, this does have a 17 heading on the ordinance, so it's been pending for a while, but look forward to moving through the process with each of you. Happy to answer questions if you have any, but otherwise we'll look forward to continuing the dialogue in this process over the next couple of months.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown. Any questions for the petitioner?
I have a comment. One thing that I just wanted to bring up, when we did the amendment for Bastion, there were certain things, and I can get more detailed with you at a later time, but we made certain allowances because it was Bastion specifically. And this business park area is really where we wanted our big building massing, our corporate headquarters kind of thing. And so I just want to make sure that with our standards that we're not going backwards at one point and allowing something that maybe we didn't want to do. And again, this is me speaking, this is what I've been hearing that we want on our corridor for many, many years, is the big building massing. So I want to make sure that we get that.
We'll look forward to your comments on that. I know we've spoken about that potential discussion.
I got some written comments to staff already for you.
Perfect.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to APC. Next, under new business, is ordinance 18-09, solicitation ordinance. This is a council introduction tonight, and I'd like Mr. Zager to present this.
Yes, sir. Very simply, the ordinance 1809 is an attempt by both the clerk's office and the police department at arriving at a new and updated solicitation ordinance, peddler ordinance, or vendor ordinance. That can be worked more easily by both departments since they're the ones with the hands-on the beginning at the clerk's office and giving out the licenses, in the police and enforcing it. As you stated, this is just an introduction. I can take questions over this over a period of time. the most important person you could probably talk to about the workings of it would be both the clerk and Scott Jordan.
Very good. There's been a lot of talk about this in the community, a lot of questions and what to do and about enforcement, and this cleans up our ordinance. It replaces the old one and actually puts some teeth into the solicitation. And since we're having a second meeting in June, this doesn't require a public hearing because it's a legislative matter. So I would recommend that we just, we'll hear it again, and it'll come back to us at our next meeting. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, I would support that, because that gives us a chance to get any feedback that may be out there in the public, or, I mean, I read through it, it seems to make sense, but look for any kind of feedback that we might get.
Can I get clarification on just a few things? And they're probably more of a legal matter on that. Do you mind? Sure. So a lot of times now when we have problems, they're given a warning, these solicitors, when they don't have a permit or some other reason, and we give them a warning and say, you got to get out of here. This actually says they shall be subject to a fine of $100 for each separate offense when they engage in this. Does that mean for sure they'll actually get that $100 fine?
No. That means when they're cited, that would be the minimum fine that would be searched for or looked for through court. This is a lot like a speed limit. Think of that. The discretion by the police to actually fine or write a citation still resides with the individual police officer. So once he writes it, that's the recommendation for the fine. Of course, the judge doesn't have to do that either.
We have people who have active permits now that are actually violating and going to doors that are posted no soliciting,
Yes,
and they're not supposed to.
yes.
And they keep doing it even though they know they're not. How does a permit get revoked, and what is the consequence then for these folks that kind of keep repeat offending?
One of the problems we're running into is kind of that, but the personalities are changing. The personnel changes. This will button down who gets licenses, how they're charged, and who's going to be actually entitled to go from door to door. And that will cut down on a lot of the issues that the enforcement against an individual is lacking right now. Right now, a company can come in, get so many permits, and then those people will change. So the police aren't seeing the same person each time. It's the same company, but it's not the same person. This clears up some of the issues the police had in trying to enforce it.
And they actually have to pay $100 per person, not just for their company, right?
Yes, yes.
And what are they paying now, do you know?
15, nobody knows. $15? I'm not
Not
sure.
a lot.
It's not much money at all.
The other thing is,
I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I also wanted to add that this is being modeled off some of the other municipalities, if not all the other municipalities here in the county. This is responding also to those people seeking vending opportunities that really don't know if they're in Carmel or Westfield, and the rules are drastically different, and so are the licensing. So we're trying to make it so that it's more transparent, not only for those seeking to vend, but for the police to actually police it and enforce it.
it's my understanding the background checks will be through, not through the local offices, but through the state, which will, or some other agency, they'll be
Background
more in
checks have been
depth
updated.
and than information we can get. So we will have a better understanding of who these folks are. If they have criminal records, that'll be brought to the top, and they won't be issued licenses. Also, the identification of the solicitors has to be more visible. They have to have it on them all the time, and their cars have to be identified as such. And so I just think there's a lot of safeguards built into this legislation.
We are codifying a process that the police believe best gives them the opportunities to enforce what we're trying to do, rather than draft an ordinance and have them trying to adapt to it.
I want to see them get hit in the pocketbook for this, when they're knowingly violating our ordinances, which, after we inform them of the rules and they violate the rules, they need to get in trouble for that. So I'm just saying personally, I want the language in here to ensure that that happens somehow.
This ordinance does not, and I would recommend not taking away the discretion of the police officer that's actually there. I don't know if that's answering your question, but I
I'll
think
talk
it
to
is,
Scott.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have a comment. Without this, nothing's gonna change. So this is the first step. And we, by law, we get complaints not daily, but near daily. And if you want something to happen, you could make a motion, we could pass this tonight if you'd like.
I have a few things in here I need to talk to the creators about first.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and we'll revisit this June 25th, our next meeting. Next on the agenda is ordinance 18-19 Liberty Villas. Mrs. Howard presenting. This is a council introduction tonight as well.
Thank you. Again, Pam Howard with the Economic and Community Development Department. Before you this evening for introduction, I have a proposed planned unit development district to be known as Liberty Villas. This 22-acre property is located on the south side of 151st Street, west of Ditch Road. The proposal includes 84 single-family attached units with 2 units per structure. The ordinance specifies architectural, landscaping, and open space standards, as well as incorporates a concept plan and character exhibits to guide development of the real estate. This is scheduled for a public hearing at the July 2nd Plan Commission meeting. I do have the petitioners here. They plan to make a brief presentation, after which both they and I will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of council. For the record, my name is Jim Shinover. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. The office is in Carmel. We represent the petitioner, Lennar, formerly known as Cal Atlantic Homes. Present tonight from Lennar is Craig Jensen, Division President, as well as Keith Lash, Vice President of Land Acquisition and Development. As Pam described, the matter before you is the introduction of the Liberty Villas Planned Unit Development District, which is a rezone request to permit the development of the real estate for sale paired villa homes. So this will be a residential community. The real estate is currently zoned AGSF1. It's outlined in yellow on the aerial that's before you. It's approximately 22 acres. The site is just south of and adjacent to 151st Street, north of 146th, and east of Town Road and west of Ditch Road. If you could go to the next exhibit real quick, thanks. This next exhibit is simply the zoning map. You can see the different zoning classifications and developments that surround the real estate. To the immediate north and east of the property are sections of the Harmony community. To the west of the property, our properties are zoned as multifamily and part of the Town West PUD, as well as other surrounding neighborhoods, including Liberty Ridge, which Lennar is building in today. Liberty Villas is designed to be a transitional use with these for-sale paired patio homes, which would be between the sections of the Harmony development and then moving to the west, over to the Town West PUD, et cetera. Next exhibit real quick. This next exhibit is simply the land use map, so it really shows with more specificity the type of surrounding developments that currently exist around the site, as well as the planned developments that would occur in the future around the site. Next exhibit just for the site plan. Again, as Pam had displayed previously, this is the proposed site plan for Liberty Villas. Again, at the top of the page would be 151st Street. A couple items about the site plan. You'll see that the fronts of the homes will face 151st Street. Also, there is significant buffer or transition area along the eastern perimeter of the site in the form of common area that will also include landscape plantings and other treatments. Next quick exhibit. Lastly, here are some of the home photos of the proposed architectural theme, again, for these paired patio homes. One thing that's very unique about these is you have often seen maybe duplex products where they're front garage door dominant, but the way Cal Atlantic, or now known as Lennar, designs these homes, they have both a front-facing garage, but they also have a courtyard garage. So it provides a unique look so that when you're at the street level, looking at the building or the home, it almost gives the appearance that it's just one ranch building, but in fact, it's a paired patio home. Lennar is currently building this product here in Westfield at the Maple Villas community, as well as in Noblesville, at Chapel Villas, and the Pebblebrook Villas community. The exterior building materials will include hardy plank and masonry. Vinyl and aluminum are not permitted, so those would be prohibited building materials. The PUD also requires HOA lawn and landscape maintenance for all homes, as well as the common area, as well as snow removal for all homes. As far as the anticipated price ranges, they'll range from $260,000 to $300,000, with a potential average sale price expected around $270,000 to $280,000. In conclusion, on May 30th, we had an informal neighborhood meeting with the residents that are on our direct eastern border. So we met with that group over actually at the model home at Maple Villas. Our formal neighborhood meeting is scheduled for June 26th, and for that particular neighborhood meeting, we'll invite all the surrounding neighbors that would be required to receive notice of the July Plan Commission meeting. But with that said, we appreciate your time tonight. We'll remain available to answer any questions you have and look forward to starting the Plan Commission review process in July. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, have any questions?
Comment. Sorry, I'm going to be bad tonight. Thank you for bringing a product that seems to be needed in the market. I often hear from people that we don't have options outside of single-family detached, at least many. And we do have a lot of empty nesters, and I find this very accommodating for both the empty nester and newer professionals. So I really do appreciate that, and I think it's actually a very good product. I would suggest just a little bit more landscaping around the units. When I visited the ones at Maple Knoll, it's very sparse. It seems like just a little bit of help there could work, and appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate those comments. It's been a very successful product for them, both in Westfield and in Noblesville. So they're very excited about it. The market has really responded well to it. If you've not been out to the model over at Maple Villas, I would encourage anyone or anyone in the audience to go look at it, because they're very nice homes. But thank you for your comments.
Any others? Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Thanks.
Next is ordinance 18-22, 100% voluntary annexation, reserve on South.
Again, Pam Howard with Economic and Community Development Department. Before you this evening for a public hearing, I have a 100% voluntary annexation of approximately 8 acres on the north side of South Street, just west of Oak Road. The petitioner has concurrently with this request filed a rezone petition to rezone this property to the reserve on the South PUD, or the reserve on South PUD. This is noticed for a public hearing tonight and would be scheduled for adoption at your July meeting. I do have Jesse Pullman here on behalf of the petitioner. He does not plan to present, but is available for questions, as am I if you have any of staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll hold the public hearing first, and then we'll open it up for questions to the petitioner or comments. So at this time, I would like to open up the public hearing at 7:49 p.m. Do we have anybody that would like to speak to this issue? Do we have any cards? All right. Last chance. I'll close the public hearing at 7:40 p.m. Counselors, do you have any questions about the annexation? All right. Hearing none, this will be back to us for adoption and consideration July 9th. Thank you. Next item is ordinance 18-23, adopting a water conservation ordinance. Very timely, except we had a lot of rain this weekend. Mr. Zager.
Thank you, sir. 1823 is a water conservation ordinance. Some of you may remember we have adopted one in an emergency situation. This is trying to get ahead of it a bit. It's been suggested by citizens and other water producers and suppliers in the county that the different municipalities within the county adopt a policy similar to this. This doesn't require us to do anything, but gives us the opportunity that if water does become scarce and it becomes a bit of a problem with the levels of the aquifers and being able to supply potable water for the citizens, that we can put into place some measures for conserving those waters. So again, this is just an introduction. Please take time, look through it, call me with any questions, and set for June 25th.
Thank you. This is to bring us into alignment with some of the surrounding counties and some of the donut counties. It's not it's a green initiative in some ways to make sure that we have adequate water supply during those heavy times of drought, but it's a warning system at different levels that the mayor can instigate or cause to be and put into place, but it's a voluntary, completely voluntary upon our residents. And it's just another thing to be aware of. And so we do have representatives, counselors from citizens if you'd like to ask any questions. But this will come back to us in June 25th for adoption. All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Ordinance 18-24, Grassy Branch Marketplace, PUD.
Evening, members of the council. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Economic and Community Development Department. Being introduced this evening is Ordinance 1824, known as the Grassy Branch Marketplace PUD, which is proposed for the northeast corner of State Road 32 and Grassy Branch Road, with local business as the underlying zoning district. The concept plan for the PUD shows 4 lots, one of which contains the existing Westfield Lighting Building, another that contains the nearly completed inline tenant building at the hard corner of the northeast corner of State Road 32 and Grassy Branch, and 2 additional lots further north, one that contemplates a daycare and gymnasium. This item will be before the Plan Commission at the July 2nd Plan Commission meeting for their public hearing, and will return to you at a later date. Eric Douthit from Church Hill and Antrim is present this evening on behalf of the petitioner and would like to make a brief presentation.
Thank you.
Members of the council, Eric Douthit, Church Hill and Antrim. I'm here today representing Grassy Branch. We have Amanda McKeon, one of the owners of Play School, here with us today as well. This is presently the present zoning for this is LBPD. This is not going to be a significant change to most of the underlying zoning. The biggest and most significant change is with new lot 4, which is on the very north of this. Can you turn to the concept for me there? The elevations, please. Yep. And here's an elevation for that proposal. This is going to be a 14,000-foot daycare with an attached gymnasium of about 22,000 square feet. It has taken into consideration that we've got the neighborhoods to the north, so we've got 4-sided architecture. I think it's going to be a beautiful, almost barn-like building. I really like the design, and I think the neighbors are going to like its use as well, or like the design as well. I think the use is going to be perfect for buffering, fits in well to buffer the retail uses to the south, to the neighborhood to the north. Again, we're here just for introduction here tonight. I'm anxious to take any of your questions and comments as this proceeds. I think this is going to be a great project for Westfield, and we're happy to introduce it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Any comments?
When is the neighborhood meeting for this?
It's anticipated that we're going to send out the neighborhood meeting the same time we do the public notice. We're scheduled for July 2nd at this point, so I would anticipate this would be not next week, but the week after. We'll make sure that council's aware of when those dates are so that they can attend.
Thank you.
And it's 2 neighborhoods specifically. We're going to send notice to. We'll combine it into 1 neighborhood meeting, however, just for purposes of efficiency.
All right. We'll Moving on, thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance 18-25, Spring Mill Station, PUD Amendment 2.
Yes, thank you again. Pam Howard with the Economic and Community Development Department. Before you this evening for your introduction, I have an amendment to the Spring Mill Station Southeast Corner Planned Unit Development District to accommodate a drive-through bank. The Spring Mill Station Southeast Corner PUD was originally approved in October of 2014 and includes standards which permitted a drive-through for both a retail pharmacy and a bank. In July of 2017, the ordinance was amended to permit a drive-through for a coffee house in lieu of the bank. Community First Bank is now planning to locate on Lot 4 of this development and is in need of a drive-through. They have met with the Spring Mill Station Task Group and will obtain a letter of support from them prior to asking for approval for this petition. The public hearing for this item is scheduled for the July 2nd Plan Commission meeting. I do have Brad Sheff here with Y Engineers. He does not plan to make a presentation, but is available for questions, as am I if you have any of staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors, any comments? All right. Go on to APC. Thank you. Ordinance 18-26, our last item of official business tonight, City of Westfield to vacate public ways. This is a council introduction and also a public hearing. Mr. Zager.
Yes, sir, thank you. There are two areas that were added to the attachments here that were rights of way of the City of Westfield. The engineering department of the city decided that they are no longer necessary for our thoroughfare plan or for the reasons that we originally held the right of way. This matter is scheduled for a public hearing. It's anticipated that the authority to vacate these areas would be granted at the next meeting. Yeah, you got to scroll down. That's one of them. Sure. It's part of the Grassy Branch Commercial Subdivision. The first one is?
I think the one you're looking at here is part of, this is on the southwest corner of 31 and 32. That's what this looks like right here.
Why don't we have Phil do it?
Am I right?
Pull GIS, I think it'd be helpful. Good evening. Phil Soundling, Director of Public Works for Westfield. I'm going to pull Flex Viewer up. Give you guys some perspective here. There's two areas. The first, like Brian noted, is at Grassy Branch Marketplace. So Grassy Branch northeast corner of 32. Let's see. Any idea where the maps are?
Just here, right there, informatics. Informatics.
Gotcha.
Maybe I did okay.
All right, the first one is, this is Grassy Branch, Cary Road, State Road 32. Let me get the aerial on here. So as part of this development, we own a portion of right-of-way. I believe it's in this area here. So Nancy Street will actually shift to the north, as you can see there. So we are vacating the piece that we no longer need, and they're going to be dedicating the realignment portion of Nancy Street. Ultimately, this will connect over to Gunther at some time in the future. So you'll have a signal-controlled intersection here and a signal-controlled intersection here in a frontage road. So the purpose for this is to salvage this existing building here so they can redevelop that property accordingly. The second parcel, southwest corner, State Road 32, US 31, better known as Hook Road. NDOT built this road as they removed access from State Road 32. If you guys recall, there used to be a full access approach there. So they built this road ultimately to serve the Waite Elevator property. So with this obviously getting redeveloped, there is no longer a need to have a quarter mile of public roadway serving one property. So in my mind and in our mind, I think it makes a ton of sense to vacate this roadway to a certain extent, cut it off somewhere to continue to serve these properties here and ultimately the development. But this land out here that fronts 32 and ultimately fronts 31 could be redeveloped into commercial property. So those are the two pieces of property that we're looking at right now. Any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Sundling? All right. Thank you. This does require a public hearing tonight, so we'll go ahead and I'll open the public hearing at 8:01. Would anyone here like to comment on this? Do we have any cards? Okay. Therefore, I'll close the public hearing at 8:02. All right. Any comments? Hearing none. At this time, residents who wish to address the council on items not on the agenda may do so at the present time.
Good evening. My name is Dan Lutz. I'm the ad board chairman for Christ United Methodist Church, just right behind the council here. And this is Gary Adams, our trustees chairman. We come tonight to introduce a topic for discussion. It's an introduction only, but it's a use of our 7-acre property at Christ United Methodist to develop a pathway around the perimeter of that property, just to be used as a prayer path and a fitness trail. So it would be, it's actually a Boy Scout Eagle project and also a Girl Scout project as well, or Silver project. And we just wanted to notify you that we're using our land in that way, and we also want to be good neighbors to our adjacent neighbors and notify them as well. So we plan to do that over the next few weeks, and we're not sure if we need any type of permitting or ordinance or anything, but we just want to let you know.
All right.
So,
I'd get with Matt Skelton
Okay.
and
All right.
take his card there.
all right, thank you.
And we just want to make sure, we're glad to see something like that, and
Okay.
we're eager, we're always like to help the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts any way we can. And you
Okay.
do a really nice job with your troops up there, and they're very active. A lot of Eagle Scouts come out of here, and we're very proud of that fact, so you do good work.
Okay.
So I'm sure that with some consultation, it'll be I look forward to see what you have and what you come up with.
Okay, very good.
Thank you for
It's
being
planned
here.
to be a 1-kilometer trail. It just happens to be exactly 1 kilometer, so.
How about that?
We'd like to maybe incorporate it in the future into, other trails as well, but for right now, it's just planned to be that small project.
All right, well, thank you for sharing
Okay.
that with us tonight. I think it's wonderful.
Okay, and I'll get with you. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address council? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to city council comments. Do you have anything from APC?
APC met last week at this time. We approved consent agenda items, which consisted of an addition at Copper Trace and the Birdies Miniature Golf out on West 32. We also sent a positive recommendation to this body for the Oak Ridge Point PUD amendment, which we acted on earlier. We approved a development plan and a site plan for Setter's Manor, which is an infill project between two current neighborhoods that was already zoned, basically. We had held public hearings on the Spring Mill Grand Station PUD amendment, as well as the reserve on South, which we had introduced here about a month ago. We approved the D&W Farms at Grand Park Village, a site plan and overall development plan. We had a public hearing for PUD for the Westfield Playhouse, as well as the Grand Park PUD, which was introduced here about a month ago as well. And that was it.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments from council? I will say I had an opportunity to stop by Touch a Truck, which was a very successful event this past week. It was amazing to see families and children out there. They were just having a ball, honking the horns, climbing on some big rigs, and it was really interesting to see. If you, even as an adult, if you missed it, you missed something. I appreciate everybody from the city that participated, and we had paddocks up there with some really big rigs and other things that were really fascinating to watch how the kids responded to all that. So, anyway, good event. Thank you. Mayor.
Yeah, Jim, I love trucks, you know.
I know that.
On a very serious note, you know, for months, years really, the city and our police and responders have worked with our schools in preparing for the worst. And as you all are well aware, just about 2 weeks ago, exactly 7.2 miles from where we are sitting, tragedy struck. We are all analyzing, looking what we can do better. We've been working with the schools for quite some time on training, communications, staffing. We're talking about how we can get more school resource officers into our schools. A lot of discussions going on, not only across Indiana, but all over the country. One of the first sessions the schools are putting on is actually tomorrow night at Maple Glen School from 5 to 6:30. It will be a session with the administration, our police, and the school leaders, where they will begin some public discussion of what needs to be done, and that is in preparation for a later meeting coming up, I think in another few weeks, that the schools will be putting on to cover this subject as we begin to look more and deeper into the subject of school safety. And it's not just a school thing, it's not just a city thing. We've got to work very carefully together on how we can best manage this problem that is plaguing America right now. A little too close to home. On more positive news, the Yellow Tie Ball we had last Saturday night, a huge success. Thank you to all of you that attended and our sponsors. We had over 300 reservations this year, which was about 50 more than last, and I think a good time was held by all, and the youth assistance people are taking on more and more of the responsibility of this as it becomes really, I hope, a permanent fundraiser for this unique and exciting program that you all well know Westfield began and is creeping across the state. So I was very happy to see that. I know our communications people started a new announcement this morning regarding the road work season here in Westfield, and it's called Travel Westfield, and you can sign up. It's a weekly e-blast, email blast that talks about all of the road and trail work in and around Westfield. And if you haven't signed up, find Vicki right here. She'll be glad to get you that. A lot of road work, trails going on, so on. Lastly, we have a rather large event we've been preparing for, gosh, nearly a year, and that is the Big Blue Colts will be soon arriving in the city. We have a press conference on Wednesday. We'll be joining with the Colts where they will announce the final schedule, and things begin to gear up from there, culminating in a scrimmage out at Graham Park with the Baltimore Ravens. So that should be fun. I suggested, using my trucking background, that we might land a Mayflower van to actually bring out there, but being Baltimore, they quickly scuttled that idea. So, thank you.
Jim, I have one more comment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, for the update on safety. By the way, Westfield Rotary meets every Tuesday morning at 7:30 at the Bridgewater Club. And we have guest speakers, and we are very involved. I'm a Rotarian, as is Mr. Ake and Mr. Hoover. We are very active in the community, and just, oh, by the way, our guest speaker tomorrow morning is Sherry Great and staff to talk about school safety. And this meeting was scheduled over 2 months ago. So it's very timely, and we would invite anybody to come visit Rotary at the Bridgewater Club tomorrow morning at 7:30.
Thank you, Chuck. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Stand adjourned. Thank you.
As a guest user. So yeah. Well, you're